woke beneath a sky washed in faded blue, the pale light of dawn seeping slowly through cold morning air. The silence around you pressed heavily, heavier than the thick wool of your worn cloak, that cloak now stiff and scratchy against your skin. A faint rustling echoed, the soft breaking of brittle leaves under cautious steps, as the land stretched silent and cracked beneath your bare feet. The distant outline of hostile Hittite hills loomed like ancient sentinels, dark shadows slipping across the horizon, their harsh edges scraping against the fragile light. You pressed the bow tighter to your chest, feeling the coarse string bite lightly through calloused fingers. The steady, rhythmic tapping of your horse's hooves on hard earth punctuated the stillness, a slow, deliberate drumbeat in the cool hush before awakening. The scent of dry dust mixed faintly with sharp smoke that carried whispers of old, forgotten fires. This land was harsh, unforgiving, an unrelenting test of survival at the edge of a world that barely seemed to notice you. If a dead phone battery feels like lost hope today, then think of the sharp panic when the last ember in your fire died out here. You drew a slow, shivering breath, the cold air scraping at your throat as you adjusted the crumbling leather strap of your quiver. Every small scratch of worn fabric, every distant caw and murmur was an invitation to remain alert, ever watchful. Your morning routine unfurled quietly. You checked the trail again, each step measured against the rough ground, the fragments of yesterday's shadows fading with the restless light. Fingers trembled slightly as you lifted a handful of dry leaves, the faint scent of earth and ash clinging stubbornly. A flicker of warmth sparked in your chest, the brief, fragile camaraderie by the fading glow of a shared fire, faces silhouetted softly in the dim light, and the silent agreement to endure. But something shifted. The barking of dogs, sharp, regular, had ceased abruptly, leaving a hollow stillness that hummed like electricity on your skin. Nearby, a glance passed between two figures settled beneath rough hides, their eyes narrowing, a quiet signal exchanged in the faint dawn. That stillness wasn't natural. It stretched taut and close, like the taut bowstring ready to snap, as your heart beat slower, listening harder. The shadow shifted just beyond the trees, a slow, deliberate motion, barely visible against the trembling light. You tightened your grip, the cold wood pressing solid into your palm, senses sparking to life as the weight of the coming moment settled over you like dusk's shadow. The land held its breath, and you waited. Hey, before Morpheus catches you for good, check quickly if you're still subscribed. For some, the buttons disappeared, and I don't want you to miss the next stories to fall asleep to. Take a soft like a pillow's gentle press. Tell me in the comments, where are you listening from, and what time is it there? Your interaction keeps this little corner of calm alive. Thanks for being part of it. You hold your breath as the shadow flickers once again at the fringes. A slow, trembling stir beneath ancient trees. The dawn light barely filters through the high branches, casting shards of pale gold that fall like brittle promises onto the cracked earth beneath your feet. Your heart beats a jagged rhythm, each thump a reminder that the silence is not merely absence, it is anticipation, coiled tight, waiting to unfurl. Your footsteps slip softly onto roots gnarled with age, the rough bark pressing cool and unforgiving under your palm as you steady yourself. The air is close, with the scent of dry leaves and something faint, elusive, a trace of musk, stale and unsettling, weaving through the morning's cold breath. You squint into the shadowy underbrush, where the dark silhouette lingers, just beyond clear sight, like a secret teasing your senses. The horse shifts beneath you, the scrape of hooves against stones, sharp yet measured, a tether to the world you dare not lose. You draw a slow, deliberate breath, feeling the friction of the bow's wood against your fingers, smooth in some places, calloused and worn in others, a constant grounding touch. The tension inside you unwinds in small waves as you guide yourself forward, careful to disturb nothing more than the whisper of cracked leaves. The landscape stretches in, muted tones, dry grass turning brittle beneath the light that grows heavier with each passing moment. You pause, listening to the faintest murmur, perhaps a bird unsettled in flight, or the distant drip of water falling somewhere unseen. The world is waking, but not yet aware of your presence, and you press into that slender gap, moving like shadows chasing shadows. Ahead, jagged rocks rise from the earth, casting long, fractured shapes that shift slowly with the sun's crawl across the sky. You skirt their edges, feeling the grit of sand and dust cling to your boots, the shards of ground crunching softly with every step. The skin at your wrists pricks under the fabric of your cloak, the worn threads scraping in a rhythm only you can hear. The weight of the bow is familiar now, its shape an extension of your own body, a steadying force in a world poised on the edge of stillness and threat. A sudden crack sends your gaze snapping upward, heart tightening. A branch, broken and brittle, falling somewhere deeper in the wood. But no other sound follows. Just the thin rustle of leaves, like whispered warnings carried on the breeze. Your breath comes in shallow pulls, the cold air scraping like fine sand along your skin. You remind yourself to slow. There is no haste here, only caution drawn long and thin. Every movement measured, every sensation stretched out until it fills the quiet with purpose. Fingers brush against bark roughened like ancient stone, grounding you, steadying the wavering edge of the moment. The far hills cling like shadows, their jagged ridges a silent chorus to your journey. Each step is an echo, a stitch woven into the fragile fabric of dawn. The horse's flank shifts gently beneath you, muscles trembling as it plants its feet, trailing a faint scent of sweat mixed with dry earth. The world feels vast, and yet intimately close. The sharp scent of smoke threads through the air again, muted but persistent, a ghost of fires long since cold. Time passes like this, slow and deliberate, as you approach a narrow path winding between two great trees whose roots twist like serpents beneath leaves fallen soft and faded. Your bare fingers graze the cracked bark, the texture coarse and yielding beneath your touch, grounding you in a present filled with unseen eyes. You pause here, heart steadying as you glance back toward the soft outlines of the camp, vanished behind veils of blue-gray morning haze. The silence coils anew, thickening, dense with expectation. A flicker of movement catches your eye, a single leaf slipping from a high branch, spiraling down in circles that trace the slow arc of seconds stretching long into themselves. You notice the faintest scent of damp earth beneath the dry wood smoke, a small comfort reminiscent of the rains that once came to these lands. Your grip tightens again, the bowstring taut and alive beneath calloused fingers. Your breath rises steady, coaxed out in slow, whispered pulls. Each exhale a thread that weaves through the air. The world tilts slightly as you shift your weight forward, senses sharp and waiting for a sign. A subtle shift in the shadows ahead, something moving just beyond the curtain of trees, too deliberate to be the flutter of a small animal. You hold still, every muscle tight, as the quiet hum of the morning wraps around you like a woven cloak. The distant hills seem to lean in, dark and silent, as if listening. Alongside you, the horse inhales sharply, a warm breath misting faintly against your chilled cheek. The scent of smoke curls upward once more, now mingling with something else, something metallic, faint and stark. The hairs along your neck rise, the slow burn of dread tightening like a whispered command. Then, from the depths of the forest, a sharp, deliberate snap. A twig breaking under weight placed carefully, patiently. You do not move. Not yet. The world holds itself wide open, every shadow a question waiting to be answered. And just as your heart lifts, caught between tension and the fragile hope of dawn, a sudden rustle from above, the crack of a branch under something heavy, draws your gaze to the sky, where the first pale light spills unevenly across the treetops. The world hushes once more. You shift your weight, the bow pressed close to your side. The weight of what lies ahead pressing down like the heavy mantle of twilight, gathering slow and sure in the spaces between the trees. You sense that whatever waits in the shadows is no longer just watching. It is moving closer. You hold your breath as the shadow flickers once again at the fringes. The slow, trembling stir beneath ancient trees. The dawn light barely filters through the high branches, casting shards of pale gold that fall like brittle promises onto the cracked earth beneath your feet. Your heart beats a jagged rhythm, each thump a reminder that the silence is not merely absence, it is anticipation coiled tight, waiting to unfurl. Your footsteps slip softly onto roots gnarled with age, the rough bark pressing cool and unforgiving under your palm as you steady yourself. The air is close with the scent of dry leaves and something faint, elusive, a trace of musk, stale and unsettling, weaving through the morning's cold breath. You squint into the shadowy underbrush, where the dark silhouette lingers just beyond clear sight, like a secret teasing your senses. The horse shifts beneath you, the scrape of hooves against stones, sharp yet measured, a tether to the world you dare not lose. You draw a slow, deliberate breath, feeling the friction of the bow's wood against your fingers, smooth in some places, calloused and worn in others, a constant grounding touch. The tension inside you unwinds in small waves as you guide yourself forward, careful to disturb nothing more than the whisper of cracked leaves. The landscape stretches in muted tones, dry grass turning brittle beneath the light that grows heavier with each passing moment. You pause, listening to the faintest murmur, perhaps a bird unsettled in flight, or the distant drip of water falling somewhere unseen. The world is waking, but not yet aware of your presence, and you press into that slender gap, moving like shadows chasing shadows. Ahead, jagged rocks rise from the earth, casting long, fractured shapes that shift slowly with the sun's crawl across the sky. You skirt their edges, feeling the grit of sand and dust cling to your boots, the shards of ground crunching softly with every step. The skin at your wrists pricks under the fabric of your cloak, the worn threads scraping in a rhythm only you can hear. The weight of the bow is familiar now, its shape an extension of your own body, a steadying force in a world poised on the edge of stillness and threat. A sudden crack sends your gaze snapping upward, heart tightening. A branch, broken and brittle, falling somewhere deeper in the wood. But no other sound follows. Just the thin rustle of leaves, like whispered warnings carried on the breeze. Your breath comes in shallow pulls, the cold air scraping like fine sand along your skin. You remind yourself to slow. There is no haste here, only caution drawn long and thin. Every movement measured, every sensation stretched out until it fills the quiet with purpose. Fingers brush against bark, roughened like ancient stone, grounding you, steadying the wavering edge of the moment. The far hills cling like shadows, their jagged ridges a silent chorus to your journey. Each step is an echo, a stitch woven into the fragile fabric of dawn. The horse's flank shifts gently beneath you, muscles trembling as it plants its feet, trailing a faint scent of sweat mixed with dry earth. The world feels vast, and yet intimately close. The sharp scent of smoke threads through the air again, muted but persistent, a ghost of fires long since cold. Time passes like this, slow and deliberate. As you approach a narrow path, winding between two great trees, whose roots twist like serpents beneath leaves fallen soft and faded. Your bare fingers graze the cracked bark, the texture coarse and yielding beneath your touch, grounding you in a present filled with unseen eyes. You pause here, heart steadying, as you glance back toward the soft outlines of the camp, vanished behind veils of blue-gray morning haze. The silence coils anew, thickening, dense with expectation. A flicker of movement catches your eye, a single leaf slipping from a high branch, spiraling down in circles that trace the slow arc of seconds, stretching long into themselves. You notice the faintest scent of damp earth beneath the dry wood smoke, a small comfort reminiscent of the rains that once came to these lands. Your grip tightens again, the bowstring taut and alive beneath calloused fingers. Your breath rises steady, coaxed out in slow, whispered pulls, each exhale a thread that weaves through the air. The world tilts slightly as you shift your weight forward, senses sharp and waiting for a sign. A subtle shift in the shadows ahead, something moving just beyond the curtain of trees, too deliberate to be the flutter of a small animal. You hold still, every muscle tight, as the quiet hum of the morning wraps around you like a woven cloak. The distant hills seem to lean in, dark and silent, as if listening alongside you. The horse inhales sharply, a warm breath misting faintly against your chilled cheek. The scent of smoke curls upward once more, now mingling with something else, something metallic, faint, and stark. The hairs along your neck rise, the slow burn of dread tightening like a whispered command. Then, from the depths of the forest, a sharp, deliberate snap, a twig breaking under weight, placed carefully, patiently. You do not move, not yet. The world holds itself wide open, every shadow a question waiting to be answered. And just as your heart lifts, caught between tension and the fragile hope of dawn, a sudden rustle from above, the crack of a branch under something heavy, draws your gaze to the sky where the first pale light spills unevenly across the treetops. The world hushes once more. You shift your weight, the bow pressed close to your side, the weight of what lies ahead pressing down like the heavy mantle of twilight, gathering slow and sure in the spaces between the trees. You sense that whatever waits in the shadows is no longer just watching. It is moving closer. A cold breeze slips through the boughs, carrying with it the faintest whisper of voice, soft, muttered words, tangled with the rustle of leaves. Your ears strain, catching syllables rough and foreign, talked low, like secrets traded in the dark. You draw back slightly, the leather of your quiver creaking faintly as you shift your pack, the movement deliberate and slow. Below, the earth beneath your boots feels less solid, a thin lace of dust shifting atop dark soil. The horseshoe print left moments ago lies half filled with fresh grit, evidence of passage, unseen but marked. Your gaze darts to the narrow path. It winds deeper, curling between the trees as the faint sounds continue, growing no louder, yet no less distinct. Your fingers tighten on the bow, muscles coiling like the tense wind threading through your hair. Every sense sharpens, the prickling on your skin, the faint metallic tang on your tongue, the weight of your heart pressing heavy against ribs like trapped fire. The promise of waiting, thick and near, is now unmistakably real. Slowly, you begin to step forward again. The silence around you folds deeper, like fabric drawn tight to hide what creeps just beyond sight. The scent of damp moss rises on the wind, erasing briefly the smoke and dust, pulling you into a mist-dimmed hush. You move between shadows now, each footfall measured, deliberate, every crack of twig beneath a poem written in caution. The trees lean inward, their skeletal arms weaving a vault above, shrouding you in half-light. The space narrows, the air grows colder, threading shadow upon shadow like a veil draping over the forest floor. Through the dense weaving of branches, glimmers of pale light catch your eyes, a ripple over dark shapes you cannot yet name. The sound of breath, stilled, ragged breath, presses close, not quite human, yet belonging neither to beast nor ghost. Your heart hammers, a drumbeat mingled with the distant fall of unseen water. A fallen leaf flutters at your feet, spinning slowly, as if hesitant to settle. And then a movement, deliberate, slow, from the corner of your vision. Something watching, waiting, just beyond the reach of the light. Your bow raises, wood cold and steady at your side. The tense silence envelopes you, holding tight, a breath poised on the edge of night and day. And in that silence, the shadow shifts once more, stepping from the cover of trees into the frail light of dawn, where you stand alone, waiting. You shift slightly, feeling the sharp bite of cold air against your exposed skin. The forest's breath is held tight around you, each inhaled scent a mixture of damp moss and fading smoke, tangled with the faint, metallic trace that lingers like a secret you cannot name. Your senses stretch taut, pulling every whisper of sound and shadow into a delicate thread that trembles beneath your steadying hand. Your eyes flick to the narrow path winding before you, its twisting roots and fallen leaves forming a ragged carpet that seems to swallow your footsteps before they even fall. You know the slightest slip could betray your passage. The slow, measured rhythm of your horse's steady breathing anchors you in this moment, the warm stead shifting beneath the saddle with a soft creak, muscles shifting and feet steady on stone and dirt. With a breath drawn slow and deliberate, you lean closer to the cool bark of a gnarled tree, rough and age-worn beneath your fingertips. The patches of lichen, pale green and gray, press softly into your skin, a small tether in a world balanced on the edge of something unseen. You stretch thin strands of patience through your body, every movement a careful decision, every sound parsed with the weight of survival. Ahead, the shadow stirs again, not a flicker this time, but a movement deliberate and deliberate, a pulse that matches your own heartbeat strangely, as if some silent rhythm threads between you and whatever watches. The air hums with tension, the faintest rustle of leaves, a muted warning whispered by the forest floor. Your horse shifts beneath you, the subtle clang of metal from your quiver, a sharp contrast to the soft padding of hooves against earth and stone. You trace the familiar shape of the bow in your hands, the worn wood smooth from countless days, the grain cool and steady as you flex your fingers. The very act of holding it centers you, a quiet ritual that steadies the rising tide of unease. The sun climbs slowly, a pale orb edging above the distant hills, whose jagged silhouettes scrape the soft blue sky like broken teeth. Slivers of light creep through the canopy, casting shards of gold that flicker across the cracked earth, settling on away from the shadowed underbrush where silence waits. You catch the faint glint of something, metal perhaps, or the flash of a hidden eye, just beyond reach. Your breath trails out in slow, measured clouds, warm against the chill that creeps beneath your cloak. The rustling scent of dry leaves mingles with the faint smoke that still haunts the air, a reminder that the fires here have long since died, but left whispers behind. Somewhere, deep in the silence, the murmur of distant water threads faint and irregular, like a heartbeat barely heard. The path narrows, bending gently between twisted roots that grip at your boots, their serpentine coils soft but unyielding under fallen leaves. You pause, the rough bark of a towering trunk pressing solid beneath your palm, a firm reminder of the steady world amidst fragile shadows. Your gaze flicks behind, toward the fading outline of your camp, now lost beneath the veil of morning mist. No movement stirs there, only the pale stillness where yesterday's warmth once flickered. The silence thickens. Your ears strain for the softest clue, a twig broken far away, a whisper of breath, the click of metal against stone. The horseshoe prints, fresh in the dusty earth, mark only your own passage, but the tension clings to the air like a hidden thread, coiled and ready to snap at the slightest sound. A leaf detaches above, twisting lazily on an invisible wind before resting gently on the ground. The world seems to hold its breath with you, every second stretched into a slow, deliberate pulse. The faint musk, stale and unsettling, brushes at your skin. You tense, hand tightening once more on the bowstring, feeling the tautness vibrate beneath your fingers with quiet urgency. Ahead, the shadow moves again, sliding softly between trunks, careful, deliberate, a slow and dark presence that unfolds like a secret reaching toward you. You do not hasten, do not break the fragile pace you have set. Each step is weighted with care, a silent conversation held only in the language of caution. Your horse shivers lightly beneath you, the warm mist of its breath grazing your cheek in fleeting comfort. The scent of smoke gathers, mingling with the undercurrent of metallic tang that sharpens with every breath you take. The air hums with quiet dread, a slow burn at the base of your neck that you cannot yet fully name. Then the snapping twig, a deliberate sound, cuts through the stillness. You hold perfectly still, the sound a thread pulled taut across the hushed forest. The trees lean in closer, their skeletal boughs entwined above in a vault that casts deeper shadow. Your bow rises instinctively, cold and steady at your side, a silent sentinel in the thickening dawn. A crunch beneath something heavier, the fall of a branch overhead, draws your gaze reluctantly upward. Light fractures across the treetops, dappling your vision with soft patches of pale gold in shadow. The vast silence closes in around you once more, a dense shroud pressed tight by the weight of what waits just beyond the veil. As the first tendrils of sun creep through the forest, a cold breath slips over the land, carrying a faint, almost forgotten murmur. Words tangled with the rustle of leaves, voices low and foreign, threading the air like secrets exchanged in shadows. They stop and start, barely there, a pulse beneath the stillness. You shift your weight, bow pressed close, the familiar grip a quiet anchor. The path ahead coils deeper into the forest's heart, wrapped in twisting roots and shadows that writhe softly beneath the pale light. The scent of damp earth rises anew, erasing for a moment the trail of smoke and dust. Amidst the stillness, a faint breath echoes, stilled, ragged, neither wholly human nor beast. Your eyes catch the motion, a silhouette shifting at the edge of vision, slow and precise. Heart hammering in measured beats, you rise on the stir of ancient warning. Your bowstring sings softly as you draw, the wood cool and sure. The forest falls away into silence once more, as the shadow steps from the blackened shelter, revealing, just barely, a form that blurs the line between friend and foe under the fragile dawn. And then, from the dim mist between the trees, a whisper laces through the cool air, soft, steady, and unmistakably near. You hold your breath, senses blazing, as the unseen watcher moves closer still, crossing the fragile boundary that separates the waiting from what comes next. You remain motionless, your breath lingering in slow, measured clouds, as the shadow recedes, just enough to let the fragile dawn stretch a little further between the trees. The weight of silence thickens around you, heavy as the damp moss clinging stubbornly beneath your fingers. Your hand drifts across the rough bark, grounding you in this uneasy stillness, your pulse a faint thud beneath the steady hum of your careful breath. The forest seems to tighten its embrace, boughs weaving a lattice that sifts the pale sunlight into fractured shards below. Each shard, a soft pillow of gold, lands on cracked earth that bears the faintest traces of stories you cannot quite grasp. Footprints fading like whispers on dry stone. You pull your cloak tighter, the worn fabric coarse against your skin, and shift your weight, the slow scrape of your boots barely stirring the brittle leaves. The scent of smoke lingers like a ghost, thin and fleeting, while beneath it, a faint dampness seeps into the air, bitter and cold. You begin to move forward once more, each step deliberate, the crunch of twigs muted beneath the careful pressure of your weight. The path narrows between towering trunks, roots twisting like ancient serpents beneath the woven carpet of dead leaves. Your gloved fingers brush low branches as you pass, the grit of bark pressing unevenly against your skin. A subtle reminder that you are not alone in this waking world. A flicker, a slight movement just at the reach of your vision, catches your eye, and your heart tugs in response. The shadow pulses again, graceful and patient, as if holding its own breath beneath the hush of dawn. Your eyes strain through the haze, searching for form, for sign, for the shape of what waits patiently in the periphery. Soft murmurs drift on the wind, nearly inaudible but present, the low drone of voices speaking in a tongue you cannot name, curling around you like a thread woven through the trees. Your grip tightens on the bow, fingers curling slowly around the smooth wood polished by countless hours. The string rests taut beneath calloused fingertips, alive like a fine thread of tension pulling at your senses. You breathe in shallow, deliberate draws, tasting faint metal and earth on the cold morning air. The faintest flicker of movement draws your eye upward. Sunlight blinks through the swaying leaves, casting shimmering mosaics on the ground. Pressing forward, your boots meet patches of earth, softened by traces of recent rain, the scent of damp soil rising softly, a dark contrast to the dry rustle of fallen cedar needles. The forest deepens here, shadows lengthening and curling with slow fingers that tease the edges of your vision. You pause beneath a great oak, its gnarled limbs stretching wide like faded arms, reaching languidly toward a sky fading from blue to washed gray. Your breath mingles with the gentle mist curling at your ankles, a pale wisp that curls upward in thin spirals, swallowing sound. And light. The weight of your bow settles against your side, a constant companion amid the uncertain quiet. Small movements, your horse shifting beneath its tacked muscles, leaves trembling in the subtle breeze, create a fragile chorus that fills the stillness with soft rhythm. A distant drip catches your ear, a slow, irregular fall of water, somewhere hidden deep within the forest's embrace. The sound threads through the silence, a steady counterpoint to the sharp twitch of your senses. You scan the landscape. Dry, cracked earth fractures beneath a mottled canopy. The faint gleam of something bright and metallic catching a slant of dim light beyond where shadow falls deepest. The faintest murmur skims the air again, voices weaving through the trees like faint rillings of water over stone. Your heart catches, steady and tight as a drum, each beat mirrored in the tense hold of your muscles. Your fingers trace the cool wood of your bowstring, flexing tendons slowly as you edge forward. The forest leans inward, the cover of branches folding shut like a secret kept close. Suddenly, the air shifts, the scent of iron sharpens, unfamiliar and foul beneath the quiet smoke. Your breath stills, a cold band tightening across your chest as the silence warps, thickening to weight that presses into your skin. Somewhere ahead, a snap, sharper this time, the deliberate crack of twig and branch under measured steps. Your bow lifts smoothly, the cold wood sliding into the crease of your forearm, your fingers tightening around the string in one poised, patient motion. Movement just beyond the trees, a subtle shift of form, something not quite human, yet not quite beast. The light fractures and falls, dappling the forest floor with all the pale exhaustion of early morning. Your gaze narrows, haze as the shape steps forward, slow, steady, deliberate. The faint breath you hear brushes close, a quiver in the stale dawn air, and the quiet murmur of the ancient woods wraps dense around the moment like a shroud. Your horse shifts beneath you, the soft rustling of fabric against leather, the only sound besides the muted crunch of leaves under careful steps. The pressure in the bowstring is relentless, fibers humming faintly beneath your skin as the tension coils tighter, waiting, watching. And then the shadow steps fully from the trees into the fragile light, a figure indistinct, blurred by distance and mist. Something about the shape is cruelly familiar. A flicker of steel catches the morning, flashes in pale glints like shards of broken promises. Your breath catches hard, the cold thrusting like icy blades at your lungs as a voice murmurs again, tangled with the rustle of leaves, harsh but deliberate, threading through the silence like an unspoken warning. The dawn holds its breath with you. The forest seems to close in closer still, the weight of unseen eyes pressing deep as the figure begins to move, smooth and sure. And in that quiet, taut moment, the line between waiting and action blurs and thins, stretched tight across your poised bowstring. You do not lower your weapon. The next step draws near. You remain motionless, the cold wood of your bow pressed softly against your side, the steady warmth of the horse beneath you, a fragile tether to this waking world. The forest holds its breath with you, leaves suspended in stillness, as if the very air itself waits to exhale. Each delicate rustle of branches overhead, Each faint whisper of shifting shadows carries the weight of unseen eyes. A few pale shards of sunlight sift through the dense canopy, scattering gold like brittle promises across the cracked earth. The scent of damp moss rises faintly beneath the lingering smoke, a subtle reminder of fires long extinguished, now reduced to quiet embers buried in memory. Your fingers brush again against the rough bark of the tree beside you, grounding you in the rough texture, a stubborn proof of life amidst this silent watch. Ahead, the narrow path winds deeper between gnarled roots, tangled like sleeping serpents beneath a worn carpet of faded leaves. Your bare boots make little sound on the soft earth, each step stretched slow and deliberate. The faint scent of metallic iron tinges the cold air once more, sharp and unsettling. Your breath draws out in measured wisps, warm against the creeping chill pressing closer beneath your cloak. A cautious, careful movement, not hurried, but patient. It slips through the underbrush with a grace that matches your own slow advance, an echo of breath and breathlessness intertwined. The forest seems to fold around this tense stillness, branches weaving an intricate lattice of shadow and light that both conceals and reveals. The distant hills loom, silent and jagged, their dark ridges scraping the pale blue sky like ancient teeth. A faint thread of wind stirs the brittle grass, its dry whisper mingling with a low, almost imperceptible murmur carried through the trees. It is a sound both foreign and familiar, phrases whispered in a tongue half forgotten, curling softly like smoke, hints of stories told but never a tool honed by countless restless evenings and quiet mornings such as this. You can almost feel the subtle vibrations of the bowstring, tuned perfectly between tension and promise, alive with the possibility of what must come. Your horse shifts beneath you, a soft exhale of breath swirling in the cold air that brushes your cheek like a ghostly touch. The faint scent of sweat mingles with earth and smoke, a mingling of warmth and desolation that draws your senses deeper into the forest's hush. Twigs snap softly somewhere ahead, the deliberate crackle under cautious steps, and still you do not move any faster. Your rhythm remains slow, unbroken, a silent prayer channeled through every careful motion. The bark beneath your fingertips grows darker, damp from recent rains that left faint rough edges, and you feel the steady creeping cold crawl inside your cloak's edges. A single leaf drifts down lazily, spinning through the air in slow circles before settling at your boot, its faded green edged with brown, like a whispered goodbye. The forest's voice rises in a faint susurrus, a gathering of tiny sounds that would normally be lost in daylight, but here magnified and sharp. The brush shifts slightly, revealing the edge of a worn leather strap caught on a broken branch. Its texture is rough and cracked, a small sign of previous presence, a silent witness to paths often tread but seldom spoken of. You swallow the dry taste in your mouth, the faint metallic tang lingering like a warning. Your heart beats steady but slow, the rhythm a drum that marks your careful advance. The shadow steps forward again, closer now, its shape more distinct in the trembling dawn light. It moves with deliberate patience, every motion controlled, measured, as if waiting for the precise moment. Your bow rises slowly, a smooth, practiced movement, woven with the silence of your breath. The wood presses solid and familiar against your forearm, steady as the winter earth beneath your boots. The few shafts of sunlight catch the metal glint, hidden in the shadow's hand, a dull, cold flash that does not promise warmth. The tension coils tighter in your chest, each second stretching like fragile glass beneath the weight of what is coming. The voice you heard, carried on the wind, whispers again, a rumble of half-words, harsh and low, threading through the trembling leaves like a secret also waiting to be told. It tricks your ears, blending with the far-off drip of water, a slow, irregular pulse, keeping time with your own breath. A horse shifts its weight beneath you, muscles tensing for a sudden flight that you will not give it. You hold fast, stepping forward slowly into the soft pool of morning light. The forest closing in hush and shadow, tasting damp earth on your tongue. The figure is silent, but urgent, a presence born of careful patience and fierce purpose. Time seems to slow further, the fragile moment hanging trembling between deep blue and pale gold. Light fractures on the metal once more, a delicate gleam like frost glinting just before dawn's full arrival. The forest leans closer, each breath heavy with history and the unknown. Then, a single, deliberate step forward, and the bowstring hums softly, a wire pulled taut across the fragile tension of dawn, ready to sing. You feel the weight of the bow steady against your side as the shadow lingers, pressuring the still morning air between you like a slow-moving tide. Each breath you draw pulls in the scent of damp earth, mingled with the faintest trace of metallic tang. An uneasy reminder that something not far ahead treads a path carved from silence and intent. The forest holds you close, its towering trees arching overhead in a cathedral of muted green and muted gold. The pale light sieving through leaves like shards of fractured glass. Your fingers flex against the cold wood, worn smooth in places. every groove and knot a familiar touch that grounds you, weaving a fragile thread of calm amid the tightening coil of tension. Beneath you, the horse shifts its weight, muscles moving quietly beneath leathered skin, the soft snuff of its breath brushing your cheek. You lean in, pressing one palm lightly against the rough bark of a time-worn trunk, the coarse texture anchoring your senses while shadows deepen just beyond your sight. Each step forward is measured, deliberate, a slow unfolding of cautious motion that stretches the moment until it almost feels timeless. The ground beneath your boots crackles faintly with scattered leaves and tiny twigs, each sound magnified in the morning hush, like murmurs meant only for your ears. A single leaf detaches from high above, drifting in circles that seem to measure seconds, a silent sentinel marking the passage of slow time. You become aware of more subtle shifts, the soft creak of branches moved by an unseen breeze, the gentle rustle of small creatures fleeing deeper into shadows, and always beneath it all, the low murmur of voices half remembered, a language tangled in the wind, whispered like secrets you are not meant to catch. Your breath catches with the quiet urgency of recognition, fingers tightening slowly on the bowstring, alive with the tension of unspoken stories. Ahead, the path narrows beneath a canopy woven thick with curling roots and twisted limbs that reach low, their ancient arms brushing your cloak as you pass. The air grows cooler here, thick with the scent of moss and rain-soaked earth, dampness pressing against the fabric of your clothing like a gentle weight. You pause briefly, feeling the pulse of the moment throb softly beneath your ribs, legs steady as the forest breathes around you. The shadow moves again, a silent ripple among darker trunks, slow, deliberate, almost patient in its approach. It is not a presence that rushes, but one that waits, slips like a ghost tugging at the edges of your awareness. Your bow rises without command, the cool wood solid and familiar, a shield against the unknown that's pressing closer. With every careful heartbeat, sunlight fractures through the leaves, scattering soft mosaics of pale gold that dapples the cracked earth and tangled roots. The subtle glint of metal catches your eye, a cold flash from a shape just half seen, edged with uncertainty. Your breath forms slow clouds in the cold air, warm against the creeping chill that seeps beneath your cloak. The scent of smoke threads faint and stubborn through the forest's damp exhale, a memory lingering on the breeze. Your feet sink slightly into soft soil, perturbed by movement, a horseshoe print partially filled with fresh dust, a sign you did not make alone. Somewhere deeper in the woods, the faint drip of water traces a staccato song, tapping into the rhythm of your own restrained pulse. The forest listens with you, leaning in closer, branches knitting a tapestry of shadow and light that twists and shifts like a living thing. Then the crisp snap of a branch, careful, deliberate. It cuts through the hush, a stark punctuation that pulls your gaze upward to where a heavy limb trembles before crashing down, loose wood breaking free. Your muscles tighten, heart inching upward as you hold your bow steady, every sense emptied into watchfulness. The figure steps forward finally, stepping from the plot of shadow into the fragile weave of morning light. The shape is blurred by distance and mist, but cruelly familiar in its silent intent. Soft glimmers of steel catch the light, flickering like shards of broken promises scattered between the trees. Your breath stills, tightened by the cold blade of dread curling slowly through your veins. The voice returns, a low murmur, thick with tension and a language twisted like gnarled roots. Words dropped with deliberate weight into the weaving air. Your pulses count time against the measured stoicism of the forest. The figure's steps are slow, purposeful, absorbing the quiet space like a shadow drawn taut. Your horse shifts underneath you, a gentle, warm breath misting your chilled cheek. The leather of your quiver creaks softly as you adjust your grip, the bowstring humming faintly beneath your fingers, a wire stretched between calm and necessity. You stand as a sentinel, poised on the knife's edge of dawn and action, waiting with breath held, fragile and fierce. A final movement, draw glints sharply in the dawn. A flicker of movement betrays a soft, small shape hidden beneath the larger figure. A brief, almost imperceptible hesitance in the shadow's step. You sense it then. This intrusion is not alone. The bowstring vibrates beneath your calloused fingertips, singing quietly across the fragile quiet. Your eyes narrow steadily, the hush broken by a distant drip of water, a rhythm matching the silent beat of what holds just beyond this brittle moment. The next breath lingers, and the hollow promise of what waits folds close to your skin. You remain still as the shadow retreats, just enough. The fragile light of dawn filling the spaces between ancient branches like spilled silver on cracked earth. The cold presses close against your skin, biting with the sharpness of a blade hidden beneath your cloak's threadbare weave. Your fingers linger on the coarse bark of the tree beside you, the rough texture steadying your racing pulse. Each breath you draw is slow and deliberate, a cloud of warm mist vanishing swiftly into the cold morning air. The forest breathes with quiet life, a somber chorus of subtle movements that you know are watched as closely as you watch them. Leaves tremble faintly, stirred by a breeze threading through the high canopy, carrying catchings of forgotten voices, low and tangled, whispered like faded songs, lost beneath the weight of time. You feel the weight of silence folding around you again, thick and heavy as damp earth beside riverbanks you once crossed. Your eyes narrow, flicking toward the narrow path ahead, where twisted roots grow like serpents, coiling beneath fallen leaves. The cracked ground crunches faintly under your boots, each step measured with the caution, slow as shadow. Somewhere near, the faint drip, drip of water pulses like a heartbeat from deep within the forest's quiet heart. The scent of moss and wet soil rises through the cold, mingling with the stubborn trace of smoke that clings thin and ghost-like in the air. The bow at your side feels like an extension of your arm, its polished wood smooth, yet full of subtle ridges where countless hours have carved familiarity. Your fingers graze its curve, the tension alive beneath your calloused skin. You shift weight slowly, settling deeper into the rhythm of cautious movement. Every sound, every whisper of cracked twig and dry leaf, etched deeply into your senses. Ahead, shadows stir. Not the restless dance of small creatures fleeing at your approach, but something heavier, deliberate. The grip on the bow tightens, slow and steady, as your gaze tries to pierce the veil of early light. Dull metal glints faintly between tree trunks, a flash of cold steel caught briefly like sunlight shattered over jagged stone. Your breath catches, exhaled softly in a thin thread, like smoke curling from long dead embers. A distant rustle shifts through the branches, the snap of a brittle twig under weight, careful and slow. Your muscles coil with quiet alertness, the hum of tension woven tight beneath your skin. The world contracts to this fragile moment. Time stretching thin and taut as you inch forward, the horse beneath shifting its weight quietly, a warm tether beneath the sharp chill. You run a bare finger across the rough bark of the tree again, grounding yourself in its lifetime of silent endurance. The path winds forward, curling through the dense skein of roots and fallen leaves. The scent of metallic iron rises clearer now, sharp and biting, threading beneath the stale. Smoke, like a warning, whispered through stone. From the dim curtain of trees ahead, movement pulses, a slow, deliberate shadow, stepping forth with patient grace. The figure is half-formed in the pale light, blurred and distant, but unmistakably there. A flash of metal shimmers, a shard of cold steel that catches a shard of dawn like a splintered promise. Your heart pounds, steady and sure, beneath the growing weight of dread and determination. The low murmur of voice drifts once more, a harsh, twisted language twining with the rustling leaves, words dropped like stones into the soft current of morning air. The horse shifts beneath, breath fogging faint, its warmth a fleeting comfort against the biting cold, pressing relentlessly through your cloak. Your grip tightens anew on the bowstring, its tautness humming beneath your touched fingertips like a latent song. The shadow boundary where light and dark bleed into one another, the form becomes clearer, a presence that balances on the uneasy edge between threat and hesitation. You sense something else hidden there, a smaller shape emerging briefly in the peripheral swirl of dawn, fleeting and fragile like a breath held. Your muscles tense, every nerve a thread pulled to breaking. Below, the earth beneath your boots carries the fresh imprint of others, footsteps unmade by you but left indelible in the loose dust. The forest leans in closer, the branches knitting tighter overhead, trapping sound in soft, suffocating folds. The sharp tang of iron fills the air, now unmistakable and near. You draw the bowstring back slowly, the wood cool and unyielding in your grasp. Each heartbeat drums long and slow as the shadow steps fully into view. A silent sentinel, cloaked in haze and fractured light. The faint sheen of metal flashes once, twice, threads of uncertainty winding through the fragile dawn. Then a sudden movement, a flicker barely seen, a breath caught in the throat of the forest. The smaller shape stirs anew, a slight hesitation etched in the slow rhythm of shadow. Your breath draws taut, the bowstring sings softly beneath your fingers. A thin wire stretched across the brittle divide between waiting and acting. The air tightens, thick with the impossibility of turning back. The forest waits, breath held, shadows poised, as the figure folds closer, closing the slim distance drawn out by dawn's hesitant light. Your arrow is poised to sing, and then, beneath the dull glimmer of steel, a sudden flash, a second shadow emerges, swift and unseen until this moment, an echo of movement that shatters the fragile calm. The shadow steps fully into the pale dawn, and your breath steadies like water settling after a storm. The shape is no stranger. It carries the weight of choices made long before this morning's light. There's no sudden clash, no shattered silence, just a slow exchange of glances, heavy with the stories that brought you here. The smaller figure, barely seen but unmistakable in its urgency, shifts beside the larger one. They carry no weapon, only steady eyes that meet yours with a flicker of shared histories and unspoken hopes. Tension uncoils gently, like a taut string, finally finding its note. You lower your bow in a slow, deliberate motion, though never fully relaxing your grip. The cool wood remains a steady presence in your hands, a silent testament to the long vigil kept in the shadows. The rider beneath you shifts, muscles easing with the signal that this moment, fraught as it is, has steered away from immediate danger. The forest around you exhales. Leaves tremble softly, stirred by a gentle breeze that carries away the lingering musk of threat. Above, shafts of sunlight spill through the lacing branches in warm pools, casting golden hues over cracked earth that now seems less hostile, more welcoming. You step forward, fingers brushing once again against the coarse bark of the sentinel tree that has kept silent watch through your journey. There's comfort in its presence, an ancient stillness that echoes your own quiet resolve. The figures nearby unfold their story in gestures slow and soft, a pact renewed, a path chosen between wariness and trust. Words become unnecessary in this dawn-lit forest, where breath mingles in the cool morning air like the faintest smoke rising from embers now cold but not forgotten. Your heart slows, the turbulent rhythm settling into steady beats as the first bird song twists through the branches above. The distant hills, once menacing sentinels, soften into gentle ridges, bathed in the light of a new day. The scent of damp earth and moss rises, stirring old memories that blend with the promise of what lies ahead. There is no triumphant shout, no grand victory, only the deep quiet of survival, of a moment won not with force, but with the fragile grace of understanding. The shadow that once loomed now seems part of the dawn itself, a silent guardian woven into the soft tapestry of light and leaf. As you lower yourself gently from the horse, the worn fabric of your cloak rustles faintly, settling around you like a well-worn story, finally at its last page. Your fingers trace the familiar shape of your bow one last time, an old friend by your side through endless dawns and dusks. The smaller companion moves closer, their eyes reflecting the pale gold of morning. No words are spoken, yet a quiet acknowledgement passes between you. A promise to carry forward the memory of this shared silence. Around you, the forest breathes anew. Tiny rivulets trickle over smooth stones, their steady murmur threading through the still air like a lullaby. Each drop balances the weight of the past, soothing the restless pulse of the land beneath your feet. You take a slow, deep breath, the cold air filling your lungs with mingled scents of pine and fresh rain, of smoke now faded but echoing like distant songs remembered. The world, once sharp-edged and uncertain, softens into a place that holds space for renewal, a gentle cradle rocking on the breath of the earth. The horse lowers its head in quiet companionship, its warm breath misting the air. Beside you, the faint scrape of hooves on soft moss blends into the symphony of morning, a rhythm steady and sure. A leaf drifts by, tumbling slowly on the breeze before settling at your feet, a silent witness to the closing of a long chapter. The light catches its worn green and faded brown, a quiet reminder of cycles turning, of stories ending, so that new ones may begin. You fold your hands around the bow's grip, feeling the familiar weight as the sun climbs slowly overhead. The shadowy forest around you brightens, the veil lifting from branches and roots tangled beneath dappled light. Here, in this softened world, The silence stretches wide and calm. Your eyes linger on the distant hills, now bathed in warmth, their dark silhouettes dissolving into rolling shapes of gentle earth. The sharpness of survival fades into the soft pulse of belonging. And as the morning settles fully, you let the quiet wrap around you like a cloak, heavy with peace, light with the promise of rest. The forest holds you in this moment, a silent sentinel now not of threat, but of acceptance, where every breath is a thread weaving the worn fabric of your story into the endless tapestry of dawn. You close your eyes briefly, the cool air brushing softly at your skin, and in the stillness, you find the gentle pulse of peace humming low and steady, a lullaby for the weary. The journey has come full circle. The dawn breaks open with the warmth of a forgotten promise kept, and beneath the vast, forgiving sky, you let the silence rise and fall, like slow waves carrying you toward rest. Here, where shadows and light meet, the world exhales, and you finally can too.